Hello and welcome to my August Nature Journal. This month is less about nature and more about history, as I share with you a visit to 3 different locations. Fountains Abbey in North Yorkshire, Middleham Castle in North Yorkshire, and a walk in the Derbyshire Dales. Cavedale is a limestone valley carved out by glacial water, which was home to a reef bustling with life 330 million years ago. The river carved out caverns underground, but eventually these collapsed, making the valley even deeper and gorge-like. You can see Peveril Castle perched on top of the cliffs. This was built by Henry II in 1176 and is now owned by English Heritage. The lower slopes have large amounts of scree caused by frost higher up shattering the rocks. About halfway up is an outcrop of basaltic lava. This forms a barrier, creating an umbrella effect in the peak cavern below. Summer has lingered a little too long. The grass and the trees wear a rusty look. The calendar cries the last day of August, and so say the leaves that float down the brook. The mists hang low in the morning hours, and the smell of harvest grows more strong. The calendar cries the last day of August, and summer has lingered a little too long. A steep walk took us to the summit of Mam Tor, which had an amazing view, but it was incredibly popular and very busy. clouds. There's Castleton down there. Now we're moving on to Yorkshire. And our first visit is to Fountains Abbey. These ruins are the largest monastic ruins in the country, founded in 1132 by 13 Benedictine monks from York. They wanted a quiet, peaceful life. 3 years later, they had been admitted to the austere Cistercian system of lay brothers, or labourers. They relieved the monks from routine jobs, giving them more time to devote to God. With the helps from these lay brothers, Fountains became wealthy through wool, lead, cattle, horses, and stone quarrying. Things were not always easy. Bad harvests, raids from the Scots in the 14th century, and the Black Death in 1348 brought economic collapse, but they held on until 1539, when Henry VIII struck with his dissolution of the monasteries. The estate was sold by the Crown and remained in private hands until the National Trust bought it in 1983. Fountains Abbey is supposed to be haunted by a ghostly choir that can be heard chanting in the chapel of the Nine Altars. This is the warming room. A communal fire would have burned here so that the monks could warm themselves after long hours of study in the other unheated areas of the monastery. The only other rooms with a fire would have been the kitchen and the infirmary. The fire was lit on All Saints' Day, the 1st of November, and was allowed to burn until Good Friday. The rest of the time they would have managed without a fire at all, despite the temperatures. John Aislabie inherited the Studley Royal Estate in 1693. He created the water gardens here after being expelled from Parliament in 1720. It is inspired by the work of the great French landscape gardeners. In 1767, William Aislabie bought the abbey ruins to complete the garden. With the integration of the River Skell into the water gardens and borrowed vistas from the rolling countryside, The garden's shape is determined by the natural landscape. St Mary's Church, a masterpiece of high Victorian Gothic architecture, was designed by William Burgess in 1871. Middleham Castle was owned by the Neville family from the 13th century. During the War of the Roses, after the death of Richard Neville, the Earl of Warwick, also known as the Kingmaker, in 1471, the castle passed to Richard, Duke of Gloucester, also known as Richard III. This was through his marriage to Warwick's daughter, Anne Neville. After Richard III's death, it remained property of the Crown until it was sold by James I in 1604. Eventually, English Heritage took over the care of the castle in 1984. Here we see what would have been the Great Hall, though now it lacks its floor and roof. The Great Hall would have been the most important room in the castle, used for feasting, entertainment, meetings, and the administration of justice. This stairway linked the basement service rooms, the Great Hall, and the chambers at roof level above. Over here, to the south, lies the remains of the first castle, probably built by Alan the Red in 1080, one of William the Conqueror's right-hand men, in the early years of the Norman conquest. Who knows what secrets the stone walls hold? Remnants of a lost time, reminders of the transience of life. How long before our own world fades away, becomes just a few fragments of rock? Children playing hide and seek where once kings walked. The decisions made here directing the fate of an entire nation, now lost to the wind. What were they like, the people that lived and worked and died here? Did they ever give a thought that we, hundreds of years later, would be walking their halls and wondering about their lives? Even memory cannot keep them alive. These people are just characters in a story, one we read on an August afternoon, and no sooner forgotten over a cream tea on a busy high street amongst the drone of tractors making hay to feed the racing yard that now occupies the castle grounds. Tourists park on the Georgian High Street, none of which existed when the castle was alive.